Politico with a report, a news story about Our Revolution, which is the group that Bernie Sanders started but is not a part of today, as they acknowledge begrudgingly in the piece. The guy who wrote this is Edward Isaac Dovers, and sometimes hilariously, people on the right will say, oh, Politico, they're liberals. Really, have yet to see them do any positive stories about any progressive group, but I have seen a number of hatchet jobs, most spectacularly this one. So let me break it down for you so you know exactly what I'm referring to and have the facts. So he starts the piece, the second paragraph in, by saying, an extensive review of the Sanders-inspired group depicts an organization in disarray, operating primarily as a promotional vehicle for its leader and sometimes even snubbing candidates aligned with Sanders. So now, those are extraordinary charges. I assume that he's going to have a mountain of evidence here. I'm going to go through it with you and you're going to see not a mountain, not even barely any evidence. So for example, even right in there in that sentence, even snubbing candidates aligned with Sanders. Well, earlier, the media was criticizing Sanders for starting Our Revolution, and that's a Senate, that's actually not even a Senate candidate, that's a senator aligned with this group that is working in elections, et cetera. Well, now that he's not part of that group, all of a sudden, well, they're snubbing what Sanders said. Well, did you want him to be independent or you don't want him to be independent? Make up your mind. All right, but let's look at the other charges. He's his third paragraph in, another huge charge. Our revolution has shown no ability to tip a major Democratic election in its favor, despite possessing Sanders' email list, the envy of the Democratic Party, and can claim no major wins in 2018 as its own. So, bold statement there right in the beginning of the article, they have no wins, okay? Total failure. All right, we'll look into that in a second. So one of the things they criticize him for is sitting out some of the Democratic victories. That did happen. It also sat out, as this gentleman explains, that Doug Jones' upset Senate win in Alabama last year and Conor Lamb's triumph in a Western Pennsylvania congressional district that Trump carried by 20 points. Now, they sat those out because Doug Jones and Conor Lamb are not deeply progressive. And they not only admit that, they're proud of that. They trumpet their conservative traits, and I understand why. Doug Jones is running in Alabama, and Conor Lamb's district was, at a bare minimum purple, but in reality, earlier, clearly red, right? So I'm not begrudging Conor Lamb and Doug Jones running that way, and I'm certainly thrilled that they beat their Republican opponents, but are they dyed-in-the-wool progressives that Our Revolution should back? No, they're not. They oppose the Our Revolution platform in massive ways. It's not like there's no one else that could help Doug Jones. And what did Doug Jones do? He won and immediately supported Donald Trump on half a dozen proposals of his. That's why Our Revolution didn't back him. If they had backed him, that would have totally betrayed the core mission of Our Revolution. Instead, there was a ton of establishment Democrats that poured in tens of millions of dollars into those races and they won, congratulations. What do you need Our Revolution in that race for? No, I just like to throw dirt on him for no reason at all. And I guarantee you if they had supported Doug Jones, Our Revolution had, they'd be writing a piece about, can you believe that? They collected money from progressives saying they'd be for progressives, but they were for Doug Jones, who now supports Donald Trump on half his initiatives. There's no winning with these guys. All right, well, how about some of the progressive victories? He says, and in Nebraska, Kara Eastman, who was backed broadly by progressives, upset former centrist Representative Brad Ashford in a House primary. Our Revolution skipped that election as well. Now, I think I've got great grounds to talk about this. I back Kara Eastman. She's a Justice Democrat. That's a group I started. Now, to be fair to Politico, they cannot stop talking about the success of Justice Democrats. Where's your article on that? Okay, Justice Democrats back Kara Eastman. Where's your glowing article about the Justice Democrats? Bravo, way to beat Brad Ashford, way to get in the fight. No, you never take that opportunity, but when you have a chance to attack progressives, you're all over it, as always. And secondarily, so wouldn't we like Our Revolution's help in Kara Eastman race? Sure, we'd liked it, but that every group is different. And there are other groups, the other races where just Democrats were not involved, but maybe the Working Families Party was, or the PCCC, and maybe in some cases, progressives honestly disagreed about who the best candidate would be, and two different wonderfully progressive groups would support different candidates. And by the way, after the primary, would unite That's exactly how it's supposed to work. But no, it's turned on its head. They weren't in every race. Got you. So in other words, losers, right? That's the theme that he's building. Well, but he has to, by the way, I counted, in the 59th paragraph of this story, it says, oh, well, okay, just to be balanced, I talked to Jane Cleave, who does support our revolution. She's, in fact, the treasurer of our revolution. And she says, this is a quote, we have about a 50% win record, which I think is a miracle, given the fact that we usually endorse the underdog or a woman or a person who comes from a community of color. Now, I don't know if you guys know this, and I don't know if this terrible writer at the Politico knows this, but our revolution was formed after the 2016 election. It's a very new group. For a new group to start and to have any wins at all is actually doing wonderful in the context of that. If a new right-wing group had started, a new establishment group had started, and by the way, they didn't have a ton of money, and they got these number of wins, that would actually be, wow, holy cow. Now, but hold on, that's just the treasurer, and he's giving a quote. Did they really win 50% of the elections? Well, Politico, this writer himself, Edward Isaac Dovray, says, no, the win record is closer to 40%. So wait a minute. This group that's been around about a year and a half has won 40% of the races that they're involved in? And they won them against oftentimes establishment Democrats, almost every time with someone who has a huge financial advantage and has all of the institution and the infrastructure behind them, and you think 40% is a bad record for that new group, well, then you don't know anything about politics. It's embarrassing. You should immediately resign, go get another job. The editors of Politico, you saw that and you thought, this new group comes out of nowhere and wins 40% of its elections. I guess that's a bad record. Really? None of you know anything about politics? Did you hold the Tea Party to that same standard? Did you hold anyone else to that same standard? I guarantee you can go back and look for yourself that when the Tea Party came, and if they won in the first elections that they ever ran in, if they won 20% of those races, they'd be like, oh my God, it's a beautiful, and I saw it with my own eyes. Okay, it's an amazing group. They're winning all these races. I mean, they can't win all the races, of course, right? But to even win that amount, that's amazing. Tea Party, they're an important, powerful force in American politics. Our revolution wins 40%. They only won 40%. Okay, gee, I wonder if there's a hatchet job. I can't tell. Well, there would be one way to tell. If you were to juxtapose the record of our revolution with the record of the establishment Democrats. And I'm sure Politico has written a lot of articles about this, right? About how the Democratic Party is filled with mountains of losers. That all their friends in Washington, who they pal around with, who gave them this story in the first place, actually can't do anything but lose. So since it was not in the Politico piece, let me clarify it for you. Here's Democratic establishment losses recently. They lost the White House, mind you, to a guy who was polling at 37% on the day of the election. How could you lose to Donald Trump and ever talk about losses of anyone else ever again in your life? They also lost the House of Representatives, they lost the United States Senate, and by losing the White House, they lost the Supreme Court. They lost 69 out of 99 state legislature. I don't know if you could be a bigger loser than that. And they lost over 1,000 state seats. I don't mean in total, I mean that is a differential from what they had to what they now have. They lost 1,000 seats to the Republicans, over 1,000. Is Politico writing on stuff? Democrats losers, not Democrats, that's easy to write. The establishment, the consultants, the lobbyists, all my friends who I go to cocktail parties with, everyone who fed me this piece of crap that I pretended was journalism. They're all losers because of all the races they've lost. And they should have no credibility at all. For example, they supported Brad Ashford, who was a former rep in the Democratic Party. The Democratic establishment was like, oh, an incumbent at one point. Now, he had lost the race already, right? So why support Brad Ashford? No, incumbent, establishment, right? So where's your hit job on how the DNC and the establishment Democrats are miserable losers? And with all of the advantages, including gigantic money advantages, they can't ever seem to win. I didn't see that one. No, but it's time to attack a progressive group. And you think they're attacking our revolution because they're doing poorly or because they're a threat? Okay, we're not anywhere near done. Now here comes the fog concern about Bernie Sanders, because he originally started the group. The result has left many Sanders supporters disillusioned, feeling that the group that was supposed to harness the senator's grassroots movement is failing in its mission. Oh, I know, you wrote the piece because you care so much about progressive supporters. And you thought, let me express that support for progressives across the country who are part of the grassroots by doing a giant attack piece on the group that they support, and then doing an attack on their leader of that group. But I care about grassroots progressives. I write for Politico. Come on, you're writing this with a straight face. He continues. The problems have also fueled doubts about Sanders' organizational ability heading into 2020, even after his out of nowhere near march to the nomination 2 years ago. His organizational ability, but he doesn't run the group. In fact, the writer acknowledges that. He says Sanders, who is legally separated from our revolution, does not keep up with its day-to-day activities. So then why did you just smear him by saying that his organizational abilities are put into doubt when he doesn't run the organization? It's almost as if your real concern is not to help Bernie Sanders, but to hurt Bernie Sanders. But these are so hard to decipher, I couldn't quite tell. And by the way, if you're an editor at Politico, you might want to think about a resignation too. You didn't catch that? On the one hand, you say he can't run this organization. On the other hand, you admit he legally is not allowed to run the organization. Oops. Okay. Critics of the Vermont Independent had been worried he'd have a juggernaut in waiting to fuel a second presidential campaign, but that anxiety has faded after watching our revolution the past year and a half. Really, Politico's writing attack pieces on an irrelevant group, and all of your establishment Democratic sources gave you this story because they're not concerned about our revolution. Did they also have you write about a group nobody's ever heard of in the middle of Nebraska? No, because nobody's ever heard of that group. They've heard of our revolution, they see their victories, they are concerned, and they turn around and go, well, we're not at all concerned, but here's all the dirt on them, okay? Write it right now, please write it. Please write it, we're not concerned though, we're not concerned. And write down we're not concerned, okay? Do you think these writers just come up with these ideas on their own? Now, the right wing is not correct when they call it fake news. It's not like they got in a room and they said, okay, let's just pick a story, any story, and make it up, that our revolution is actually running a circus and they've got a flamethrower. No, they're not no, what happens, and if you don't know, again, this, if you're in the audience, I don't blame you. You don't know the machinations of how Washington works, but everybody else does, and they pretend that it doesn't work this way. No, somebody feeds you the story. Oftentimes it's opposition research. Every campaign, and sometimes entire organizations, have oppo research. In fact, we know because the DNC just put out oppo research against the Just Democrat, Laura Moser, and it's supported by a lot of progressive groups. And so when someone wants to do an attack piece, they look around for a reporter who is ideologically aligned with them, and this guy is largely right-wing. They're like, good, it's Politico, they stand for the establishment, perfect. Let's go give it to this guy because he'll write whatever we want. Now tell him that, oh, we're worried about Bernie Sanders. But we don't care about this group at all, but make sure you attack them, come on. All right, we're continuing. He claims that that Bernie Sanders has expressed discomfort with attacks by affiliates of our revolution against some politicians. Bernie Sanders is not shy, he could say that himself. Do I trust Politico to tell me what Bernie Sanders is thinking? No, to say that I don't is a massive understatement. Oh, he's so concerned. Okay, supporters warned that the senator himself will suffer if the group formed in his name is seen as weak and floundering, which is exactly what I'm trying to do with this article. Oops, did I say that? No, he didn't say that. That's exactly what he implied. Now look at this weak and floundering group. Senator said, but some people are concerned that it's going to seem that way. Well, there would have been one way to avoid that if you had not run the attack piece in the first place. Oh, so please just spare me your fog concern. What a load of crap that is. Okay, and then he points out, they have poor fundraising. Now, two things. One, yeah, they don't take the corporate money that you guys are bathed in Washington, which you celebrate. All these writers in the mainstream, they do. The establishment writers, Now, it's not because they're all rich. No, it's just they live in this bubble where they have groupthink. They think, oh, Dianne Feinstein has raised so much money from Lockheed Martin and AT&T and the defense contractors and the pharmaceutical companies. Dianne Feinstein, she's great. She's a leader, she's a leader. She has a lot of money, everybody. Took a lot of corporate money. Okay, she's great. You're trying to actually help people for fundraising. By the way, if they had done spectacularly in fundraising, you know what they would have said? They raised all this money, but what are they doing with it? They raised all this money, but what are they doing with it? So no matter what you do, they're going to attack you. I'm not anywhere near done. So now we go to Nina Turner. She is the president of Our Revolution. Here comes this hilarious beginning line of attack. Both fans and detractors of Sanders pin Our Revolution's problems on Turner. Do they? The former Ohio State senator who became the group's president and public face a year ago. Let me read that again. Both fans and detractors. Really? I'm a fan. Did you ask me? I'm a fairly loud fan. I don't know if you can tell. There's a lot of fans of Nina Turner. There's a lot of fans of Our Revolution. There's a lot of fans of Bernie Sanders. You talk to them? No, you talk to the people who conveniently would tell you, well, I'm got a slight issue with Nina, or I'm a little jealous of Nina, or whatever is going on, right? Did you actually go and talk to the heart of progressives that are think Nina Turner's doing a great job? Please don't pretend that you did. That's a preposterous thing. No, you cherry-picked just a few critics that she has. Go, some liberals also agree. Some liberals, and mainly I got fed this story by Andrew Cuomo or someone else in the Democratic Party who can't stand the success of Nina Turner and who might one day run against her. But yeah, fans of Nina Turner are also disgruntled. Yeah, tell me more about how you represent progressives, Edward Isaac Dovray. I know, you're the pulsing heart of the progressive grassroots in America. All right, though some sources involved in Our Revolution said she's been an effective spokesperson, several others told Politico they think she's seeking to increase her profile. This is one of my favorite lines of attack. She's all over the country representing Our Revolution. Wait, why is that a bad thing? If she had just sat in Washington, you know what they would have said? She's not going out to the country to help the different candidates or the group. She's just sitting in Washington. There's no winning. You get it. Damned if you do, damned if you don't. You're gonna get attacked by this guy no matter what. You're gonna get attacked by Politico no matter what, because they are not here to serve the truth. They're here to serve the establishment and their contacts and sources. Why? If you're good to the sources, they'll give you another story, which is another hatchet job, where you basically work for them. Okay, now, every part of this story is hilarious. Then they say that there are people concerned about Nina Turner taking on the DNC and the Democratic establishment. The quote here is that a combativeness of Turner has unsettled some on her own board. Really? There are people on Our Revolution board, a significant percentage that you would write this story, who say, no, let's take it easy on the establishment. If that's the majority of the Our Revolution board, then they are not fulfilling their mandate. The people sending money and the people doing volunteering for Our Revolution are not there to not be combative with the Democratic Party and the Democratic establishment. They're not there to play patty cakes. I mean, you almost couldn't find a higher compliment of Nina Turner than to say that she's combative with the Democratic Party. That's the whole point. It's not to bow her head. And if she had, they would have been like, well, what's the point of Our Revolution if they're just gonna bow their head to the Democrats? There's no winning with these guys. All right. Now, finally, we get to one smidge of actual fact in this story. So there is actually a very small group that is concerned about a legitimate issue, by the way. So, and I'm unlike them, I'll be fair and I'll tell you what it is. A founding board member, they explained, resigned last month, saying Our Revolution wasn't paying adequate attention to Latino candidates and issues of importance to Latinos. So that's a real issue that they could debate within Our Revolution and hopefully get better at. If it's true, they should have meetings about that. But let me tell other progressives that you take it with any, anything you like, right? You want to ignore it, you want to listen to it, that's fine. But fellow progressives, do not help the establishment, both their minions in the press and the Democratic Party, by forming circular firing squads. You want to take it up with the board, you want to quit the board, you want to go and talk to other progressives, you want to go and have that those conversations in conferences and conventions. That makes all the sense in the world. No one would ever quiet anyone else. We're progressives, okay? But when you go talk to Politico, understand what they're going to use you for. They're going to pretend that you're the majority, that they're going to find two people who are opposed and then pretend that it's the heart of the progressive movement or that it's a significant factor. So I'm just saying, be wary of establishment folks pretending to be your allies and your friends. They are not. They're looking to destroy the whole progressive movement. And again, it's not a conspiracy. They didn't get in a room and go, we will destroy the progressive movement. No, it's their groupthink. It can't be Sanders. I was once with a reporter who shouted at me, Bernie Sanders will never be president, and said, I don't do opinion. Wait, I get the sense that maybe you do opinion, but you're not honest about it. All right, finally, why did I mention Cuomo, and who's the one who planted this story in the first place? Well, we might have a clue near the end of the article. Last week, Our Revolution endorsed actress Cynthia Nixon in the primary for New York governor after she filled out a questionnaire and did an interview with a local affiliate. But an aide to her opponent, Democratic Governor Andrew Cuomo, who last year was joined by Sanders at an event promoting a state initiative on the senator's signature issue of free college, said his campaign knew nothing of the process and learned of the endorsement from a press release. Two notes there. One is, Andrew Cuomo, you have tens of millions of dollars you collected from your corporate friends. You couldn't look up how to fill out their questionnaire? Then you blame them. Why didn't you just anoint me like the rest of the establishment? Well, that's because you have to go through a process. I am Andrew Cuomo. I don't go through a process. Instead, what I do is I call up my buddy Dovere at Politico and go, hey, I got something for you, okay? Can you believe they didn't endorse me? The temerity of them. I once bothered to show up at an event with Bernie Sanders. You're going to be shocked to find out that Andrew Cuomo today got endorsed by Hillary Clinton. Funny how that works. So, look, do I know for certain that Cuomo planted this story? Well, you've got a clue there, and unlike the people that work at Politico, apparently, I actually understand politics and report on it honestly. So that gives you a significant clue. But whether it was him or some other Democratic establishment hack, or some right-winger who thought Bernie Sanders and Our Revolution is a real threat, let's go get ahead of this before we have to run into them in 2020. Either way, they gave this story to Politico, and Politico enthusiastically jumped in and was like, they're not even anointing Cuomo. Ridiculous. They're doing their jobs and actually supporting real progressives. Let's go bury them. Well, news for you guys. Now there is other media. In the past, there just would have been you guys and TV, and Scarborough would have looked at this, and on Morning Joe, I don't know if they have yet, but would have been like, bravo, bravo, agreed, progressives are terrible. Well, now there's us and there's other media online, and we're not gonna sit back and take it, and we're not gonna be apologetic. We're gonna come for you, and most importantly, we're gonna tell the audience what you're actually up to, and we're gonna prove it just like we did here. This was a hit piece through and through. It had nothing to do with journalism. Young Turks. Two easy ways to follow the Young Turks. One is hit the subscribe button down below, then you're a TYT subscriber, and second is ring the bell. And when you do that on YouTube, you're notified of our videos.